I'm happy to be on this stage with you. To have this discussion, looking at the future of radio in cars. So let me start by asking each of you what you're working on today. Let's start with you, Joe. Can you give us a little background on the NAB pilot project?
Sure. So the NAB pilot project is a project that was initiated back in 2020, and it was brought together with Xperi and the National Association of Broadcasters as a consortium of companies, 17 companies representing broadcast, automotive, public service, commercial broadcasters, and technology providers like Carriad from around the world. The intent was to take a hard look at how Android Automotive currently supported radio, broadly defined, analog radio, HD radio in the US, and DAB in all of their markets. And really try to understand how Android was prepared to feature radio in cars. How were they helping car companies implement radio? And the first thing we found was there were significant gaps in the functionality. There were things that these different technologies could do that Android hadn't fully implemented. And so as an industry, both technology and broadcasters, we were concerned about the impact that would have on the end user experience and really the opportunity for radio to showcase its services in what was at the time an ever-growing Android automotive install base. So that was the genesis of the project. It came together in 2020, and it's been very, very successful, but a great collaboration with the industry.
Okay, and during this project, what did you learn about Google, Android Automotive, and their perception of broadcast radio role, especially
Sure.
in the digital dashboard?
Well, number one, they care about radio, but they're not subject matter experts in radio. And what they were hoping to achieve with the operating system in the vehicle was really a broad foundation of technology that would enable in-cabin media and environmental experiences, controlling the air conditioning and backup cameras, in-vehicle entertainment systems. But they had aspirations to go beyond that too and get into broader vehicle system control. So they were under a lot of pressure, let me put it that way. There were a lot of expectations put on Android Automotive, and while they cared about radio, they needed a little help, a little guidance for how to do radio well. And I think they also wanted to understand from the broadcast industry, what is the industry prepared to support in all of this range of functionality? So it was quite a good learning experience and quite a good dialogue.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And now, Vincent, as one of the leading infotainment distributor for automotive and TV industry, Access, how are these markets evolving with Android Automotive OS 14?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So, my name is Vincent Derouault Tep, and I just want to introduce Access so you understand how we contribute to this discussion. So, Access is a Japanese company specialized in enabling connected services, applications to different devices. So, we used to do it for smart TV, and now we're doing it for infotainment in the car. So we're covering different regions, and I'm taking care about car manufacturer in US, in India, and in China. So I will answer this question by defining different trends we see and different requirements I see from my customer. So the first, I can confirm that every car went from Western, Chinese, India, preparing a connected car with multi-screens, so you can see only, for example, the all based on the Qualcomm chipset who can control up to 6 screens. And depending on the level of car, from the mid-range to higher range, you can see like a Tesla car with one screen in the middle. You can see high-end car with up to 6 screens. Here, application will evolve to be more multi-screen experience, right? So you can cast, you can share media from different screens. As well, we see as well a movement to personalization, because the car interact with the driver, but why not it should as well interact with everyone in the car, all the passenger. Everybody should be able to interact with the car. So here we see application who can be multi-user and then personalization start to be important, right? So I see as well that in this context you have an area, infotainment, where a lot of other applications than radio can join, right? So I have a lot of requests about video, about gaming. So you have the passenger. There's not only radio, you have as well. You can read your message. You can read your newspaper. You can watch something. But as well, it's true, cars are not autonomous yet, and so the number one service you need to secure is still audio. Yes, radio is there, but as well I have a rise of requests about streaming, music streaming. So we're talking about Spotify, Apple Music, etc., etc. Here I see that radio has this new area, which is the infotainment part. And it's up to the radio as well to embrace this area and be as well not only on the terrestrial part, but as well in the IP area, right? So this is how I see things, and things moved.
Great. Well, Joe, this leads nicely back to you. Well, the question could be, will DAB+ be supported in AOS P14, and what's the planned release schedule?
So Android Automotive has always supported DAB. The question was, is it going to be fully featured, and how easy is it going to be for tier ones and OEMs to actually utilize it? One of the challenges during this project was Android is very careful about sharing product development roadmaps and schedules because, as I said, they're under so much pressure to innovate. So they keep their product schedules or their innovation schedules very close to the vest. So you have to be a licensed partner, basically, to get inside the tent. So while we were doing this project, and we delivered, again, with the help of Gregor from Cariad, some very, very solid technical specifications and even software to them at the end of last year, we couldn't share the visibility on the roadmap because of all the NDA complications. So a lot of the NAB and World DAB members were kind of in the dark, didn't know what was going on. The good news is we've moved through the typical Android cycle. We're in phase 3 of their 4-stage software release schedule. So we started, I wrote this down to get it right, in February through March, we were in their development previews. That's where we were working with them to review the code and do some basic function testing. April through June, we had the beta release. That's where we were able to get our hands on some of the software and help them refine it. The last 2 days, so yesterday and the day before, was the beginning of what's called platform stability. That's where Android runs their developer boot camps. They expand the audience that gets access to the code. And we saw a lot of good stuff. The world for DAB looks actually very, very promising in Android Automotive. And then the final release is scheduled for September. So we're almost there at the end. You can almost get your hands on all the documentation, see for yourself everything they've implemented. But I think this project, with the support of the NAB, with Cariad, and with Xperi, has been extremely successful and has more than delivered on the promise we made to the broadcasters when they partnered with us to move in this direction. So wait until September. I think, you know, IBC, you'll be popping champagne and celebrating radio.
Coming really soon. Okay, why don't you're really a great storyteller, you know that. You're really great. Xavier, we haven't heard from you yet, but how can Radioline take advantage of AAOS 14?
So, like Joe said, AOS 14 is very demanding and waiting for this new template. So hybrid radio is part of our activity. So we've been pioneering Android Automotive, the first worldwide with a hybrid radio and Panasonic in Germany. It was very complicated. It was almost hacking the system. But we did it. It used to work. So, but it needs to be improved, definitely. So thanks for this work, because now we have a standard, open standard, so we'll be able to do that. But our approach is more IP because we are, by nature, more IP-oriented. But we join a World DAB group because we think there is a good way for IP alone, but also IP in a hybrid environment. So that's why we work on both sides. But to be true, for the moment, our relationship with all OEMs are really, really small about hybrid. It's not exactly the number one expectation. Maybe because it's too complicated, etc. But also because they are setting up the IP strategy, and there is a lot because of the adoption, about the business model, the data, and it's super, super complicated. Of course, they want to offer diversity, but there is very few applications that will remain in the car because it's too complex, it's dangerous to slide too many pages. So fortunately, we are part of the I would say the environment. We are on CARIAD. We can unveil with BMW as well. They selected us. We are by default with Geely, Great Wall Motors, with our friend distributor Access as well. So we try to be in a maximum environment. This is step one. Step two is also to bring good service. Because good program is not our job. It's your job, it's broadcaster job, they're doing well. We try to do and arrange catalogs, country by country, region by region, which is a lot. We try to monitor to avoid the broken streams. We share the data, like Joe explained this morning, we have that same kind of sharing data, statistics, and even a tool where the broadcaster can change by themselves the logo, the stream, etc. So we try to be as much transparent as we can, because it's not our part. Our part is to bring services, and we think that linear is non-interactive. So if we want to make it something different, we need to work hard to bring this layer of interactivity with metadata, and that's where we see our role. So, for example, we are working on a dynamic radio project with Stingray Music. So we mix, music with podcast on a very large scale. So it's super complicated because it's part of an algorithm. There is the rights, the digital rights to manage as well. So we do POC with two big, one OEM and one tier one. So it's something very, very required right now because, of course, we pitch it to others. They are very interesting for that. So for us, it's a door for the user to go and discover. And then if they want to go on the line linear, they can. If they want to listen to a single podcast, they can. We are just trying to open gates to engage the user with a new way to experiment radio content.
And hearing this, then, what's the impact on your advanced feature, and how are you integrating the voice assistant?
So, Serence is one of the worldwide first solution for AI, and they decided to choose our solution for training their AI, vocal AI, because we know that there is a lot of radio stations that the name is pretty close. Sometimes it's the same name. So we need to distinguish from one from the other. So because we aggregate since 15 years, largest database of radio station and podcast worldwide, they decided to work with us. So it's a long process, 6 months process of integration. The good news is that it's ready. So it's already integrated with some OEMs, so they can just unlock it to have the direct access to the right stream at the right place.
Well, okay, so it seems that radio services are evolving. What do you say to this, Vincent?
What he's saying is exactly what we think of, personalization. So thanks to his platform, we can customize the radio on your taste. So as we discussed before, Candice, you don't need to take care of the car. The car will take care of what you. This is the future. The car will know what you want. You will know who is driving, what you have looking for, and will bring what you want, right? So that's the evolution of this personalization. I want to as well to define what is personalization, because I see as well some different cultural aspect of personalization. In Western countries, like Europe, US, and Japan, we see personalization through recommendation engine, AI, and all of this stuff. But you know what, in China and in India, they see that more one set of applications for all, right? And personalization is more customizing the package for each region. So a package of application or radio for Kerala, one for Punjabi, etc., etc. So we see a different approach. But at the end of the day, the car need to understand and serve the driver. That's the vision of it. Okay.
Xavier, would you agree with Vincent? And has the digital reached a tipping point in the car? I mean, how do you keep radio prominent?
So we think we should avoid dispersion, because again, there is not a lot of places in the car to be there, because we have to compete with streaming services and others. Now there is gaming, there is stuff. So we need to be unified and work together and bring this level of evolution. Super.
See, if you buy a TV, you don't want to see only BFM, right? You want 20,
yes,
30.
I do. Actually,
you are connected to the internet.
Yeah.
So you want to access to everything on the internet, isn't it? Yeah. This is what's it about, aggregating all these contents.
And I think there is other level of engagement. For example, we do POC with Volvo about sports micro gaming. So the idea is to listen to a match on the radio and to be able to bet on each action of the match and earn rewards, QR code, stuff like that, without any driver distraction, of course, because we use the companion app to do the job and get and retrieve the stuff. But it's something very engaging, because radio spots on the radio, especially in the car, is super, super exciting. So if you can engage safely, I think it's something pretty cool that we'll be happy to maximize on every sport and with every radio station.
I can see you agree, Joe. Do you agree with Xavier and Vincent? Radio is at the tipping point?
I do, and I think it's a unique tipping point, because you've had the benefit here in Europe for a couple of years of the support of the European Electronic Communication Code and advancing DAB as a foundational technology. But as cars become connected, it's not just the connectivity, but it's the upgradability, the ability to deploy new services and features into cars that have been on the road for maybe 3, 4, 5 years, that provides the amazing opportunity, but also the threat. You know, we saw with Tesla, for example, they upgraded their fleet around the world in about 45 days. Brand new radio experience. Driver didn't have to do anything. I mean, very, very powerful. But the risk is, as Xavier mentioned, you're competing against global powerhouses. Spotify, we'll just use them as an example. They can update their service in the car around the world overnight. And that's the environment you're up against. So, you know, how does this industry that has the strength of diversity, the strength of localism, but the challenge of diversity and the challenge of localism compete in this marketplace? So I do think the right partnerships are required. Obviously, I'm biased. I think we're a great partner to the industry. So the tipping point is here. It's now, and the opportunity is now. And thankfully, we're in this room discussing how to seize that opportunity.
I have just one last question for you, Joe. How critical was the voice of automakers in this effort to get Google's time and attention? And in your opinion, now can the industry continue to collaborate with Google on the future of Android Automotive?
The voice of the automaker, the first thing we learned when we engaged them as a broadcast industry, and even as a tier 1 and tier 2 industry, when we went into them as software developers, Cariad and Xperi, who developed the software that goes in these cars, they were polite, they were curious, but they weren't going to take action until they heard from the OEMs themselves. And that's when, CARIAD reached across to their VW partners, and you had the voice of the automaker speaking with unity on the importance of DAB. Similarly, we had Ford come in and do the same. They were the most active partners, but we had about 5 other OEMs voice support. That's what moved the needle with Android, and I think that is going to have to continue. In terms of how the industry, the broadcast industry, can continue to engage with Google, I think it's through advocacy groups like World DAB. You have a huge automotive membership representation. But I would say the call to action for the broadcast industry is to focus on what you control, which is your services. You're now going to have a platform where DAB is fully implemented in cars. It can deliver all the rich services that DAB enables. Make sure your services are on air, you're looking after your metadata, your imagery, just as much as you care about your audio programming. That's going to have the biggest impact on the application rate and the consumer satisfaction, which at the end of the day is going to drive whether or not this technology remains prominent in the car.
Well, okay, he does my job. That's great. He does the best job. Well, thank you to all three. Thank you very much for this session. I'm sure everyone could agree that it was really interesting to hear how each of you are tackling the challenges ahead for DAB and radio in general.